Hello and welcome back to IS335. We are going to week 3. So just remember that you can always go home and then you go modules. This up a little bit. There we go. So you can always view the book right here. And once you get here, you can click on either one of these things like the task method or the week method. So we're in week 3. Go through here. And you go in here and the 16 activities. Remember, this is just a video. It doesn't count towards grade, so you can watch it and learn. You don't have to. Counts towards grade. So there you go. Things that count towards grade are what gets pushed back into Web Campus. Okay. We can go into that more if you want. So let's go down to week 3. Week 3 is a little lighter. We have the discussion post. Okay, so both Tableau and Power BI are free tools. I think Tableau, you sign up, they send you an email with a license, they have some free training. Power BI, I think you just log in and download it if you have Windows. Tableau works on both. Also use R or Python if you know how. I'm not going to go into detail on how to use those. But like I said, at work, I used to use Tableau a lot, like every day. And Power BI, I use a little bit more now. I use Python a little bit more, and I use Excel. Also, if you don't want to install anything, and like I said, you don't need to do any Tableau or Power BI for this assignment. I'll cover it later. I just want to give you a little introduction to it. Tableau can also be accessed on campus and remotely. I do expect a draft of your research paper. Now, remember, where you submit your research paper and like the research topic are two different assignments. So here's just, the draft. Okay, so it's a different actual area than where you put the research project. It's worth different points, but you can figure that out. Unity Library has a great little data visualization site right here. I recommend looking at Visualization 101. Okay, right here, how charts lie. You could use that for discussion and visualization types, infographics, maps, things like that. Okay. Software, I think they just have Tableau, Power BI, and SAS. Power View, Visits. They have a couple different softwares. There's a short video on an Instagram video I found. I asked for a copy of it. I don't think I could find it, but it just talks about the lab, the MIS or IS department lab. I think it's a semester too old, so these hours might not be accurate. But if you need help, there's a great place to get it. Or if you want to do your own projects, there's Dr. Lee, a friend of mine, and another professor. So definitely watch this video. If you have questions, let me know. But here's that video. What else do we have? A little PDF. If you guys have a Medium account, you can click here. Otherwise, I just like to include the PDF. Since I have Medium, I can just click there. Actually, did it load? No, it just takes forever. So here's a little different things. Now, the thing I do like is this. It's hard to do. The book calls this something different than I call this. And so these are very common, very popular. Okay, these scales or I just realized it's not even English. These charts. Yeah, the whole article is. So just go through, maybe read this. Not super hard, but it's a good introduction. Here's a PowerPoint again from the producer. My PowerPoint and my video will be up here. This video. So let's get into it a little bit. Remember, you only got to do things count towards grade. Other things, totally optional. Now, I'm going to start this a little different because I want to explain something about Excel. Okay, and we'll get to that here in a second. So let's just, it's that cheap, fast, good, the iron triangle. So for chapter 3, and we'll go over the book here in a minute or two on my iPad. Things that are really important are here. Tree maps and waterfall, stock charts. There's better ways or more practical ways of doing this. Even these geospatial data. For geospatial, I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of better programs to do geospatial data, and it's super important and super valuable. but we'll talk about that here in a minute. So yeah, just do your mind tap work, do your discussions, submit a research idea draft to me. Okay, so I learned this a long time ago, and I didn't know it was called the iron triangle. I still have doubts whether it's called the iron triangle, but that's just what you can find on the internet. And the idea is, I know some of you were photographers, and this was I learned when I was an intern or doing assistance for some of the photographers here. And they told me, hey, you can pick two, and you only really have two. You can have it good and cheap, but it won't be fast. You can have it good and fast, but it won't be cheap. You can have it cheap and fast, but it won't be good. And this idea, if I can instill this into you, it will save you time and energy throughout your life, okay? There's different terms for this. In some of the MIS classes, they can call this consistency, availability, and tolerance, okay? I just love it. Cheap, fast, and good. So if you want something cheap and fast, you just get through it as quick as possible, but it's not going to be good. You're going to have spelling mistakes, or it's not going to be accurate. If you want something cheap and good, it's not going to be fast. It means you got to spend a lot of time, revise it, revise it, revise it. You know, if people want something good and fast, it ain't going to be cheap. You're going to have to put, hire people, do a lot of things like that. So always try to remember this golden triangle, the cheap, fast, good. It will just save you on a million things. Okay. And we talked a little bit about MVP. MVP is a target. What is a minimally viable product? What do I need to basically get Facebook off the ground? What do I need to basically what is basically cheap and good, or what's cheap and fast? I can always make it better, but if I don't deliver something, I get nothing. Okay. So sometimes you're here in the business world, things are in scope and out of scope. It relates to MVP. Hey, I'm doing this, it's in scope. That means they want it as part of the MVP. That's out of scope, we can deal with that later. Okay, so MVP, yeah, just words to live by. Hey, what is a minimum to basically complete the project, complete the task? I'm trying to think about this. I use this for another thing, and basically for this MVP, we kind of came up with a sketch or something, and all we're trying to do is get to the goalpost. We can make it better on the second sprint. I know a couple of you are Scrum Masters. We can make it better later, but we have to get something to the door, okay? Because there's a saying in, I don't know, research and many other things, it's fail fast. And that's part of the point of an MVP. When we do something, we don't always know if it's going to work or not. That's why the analyze me is important, okay? The analyze me, which is we'll do next month, basically you get data and you start interrogating it. Well, maybe you start looking at the data and it doesn't work. Well, if you wait till the night before the project's due and it doesn't work, you're SOL. But if you, I don't know, look at it and within the first week and, oh my God, this doesn't work, and you come up with another thing that does work, well now you're making progress. And this happens oftentimes in business too, where we start coming up with these ideas on, hey, maybe we try this, maybe we try this. But until we actually start kind of getting down that road, we don't know what will work and what won't work, okay? There was a research project that I was a part of, and it was a spinal stimulator, okay? So basically, I guess they put these this is University of California, San Francisco. They put these spinal stimulators to prevent pain for patients. Okay, so, and I mean, it's a surgery. I mean, these doctors are implanting things to people's spine. It's a high-risk surgery. It's expensive, and like I said, it's dangerous. So really the question was, do these surgeries, which people would just assume for years, that they would stop drug use, opioid use, okay? So the problem is that you have a lot of patients that have back pains, back injuries, things like this. They take a lot of opioids. And spinal stimulators can basically kind of block that pain or make that pain less. So naturally, they would use less drugs. And the effects of using less drugs are, opioids depress breathing and a lot of other things. They can be abused, they're addictive. So the idea is, hey, if we spend a lot of money and put these spinal stimulators on a person's back, they'll wean off their opioids. Nope, and no difference. and they looked at like 900 patients or something. Okay, so they took 900 patients that had the spinal stimulator and 900 patients that didn't. No difference. But I mean, they've been doing this for like 20 years, 18 years, and it took 20 years before they actually decided to interrogate it, because it was just, you don't know what you don't know until you actually get statistics and data in there. Okay, that's another thing too. Get close to the data and the people. Stay away from the middle. Now, what do I mean by that? So sometimes leadership or administration will want you to do X, Y, and Z. Well, when they do, you want to go to the people either collecting the data, the people doing the research. You want to get as close to the problem. I don't know of any other way to say that, but get as close to the problem as you can. Okay. Sorry, another example I just thought of. We had a case where we were told that people could get rides. Like they call this 1-800 number and they just boom get a ride, and average hold time is 5 minutes. And I think Jeff Bezos did the same thing in a meeting. But basically, me and this doctor called right in the middle of something like, "Hey, let's see if we can get a ride." We were on hold for over 45 minutes. And 2 or 3 people in that room said, "Oh, no, it's less than 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah." We want to act. We want to get as close to the data as possible. We want to act like patients or people that needed rides. And Jeff Bezos, I know, did the same thing too. I don't know if it was a return or on hold, but again, get close to the data, get close to the problem. Okay? Context, your book uses data inc ratio, I think is what it is, and KPMs. Basically, what should be included and what should not be included. It's always easy to throw more things in there than we need, but it's really hard to think what is the bare minimum that we need on a dashboard, for example. What else do I have in here? Okay, so now, both the book and what I'm going to go over, Excel is great for quick and fast analysis. And it's just, I mean, this, even though it's not meant in Excel, this is the type of data that I do on Excel. I just get, boom, numbers out the door. I don't need to spend an hour on it. I just need to get something out the door. What's my biggest line of business? LB line of business. How much bigger is it? I mean, look at this. It's kind of hard to tell here. I don't know. I mean, this is bigger than that. I know that maybe 2 times. But here, you see, this is like, I don't know, a lot bigger than this. These two are very similar, a little bit bigger. But you can visualize it. So this is where Excel has a lot of strength, is that it's really quick and dirty to get a lot of visualizations out the door. Okay. The MindTap has some good learning on it. LinkedIn Learning has a couple great classes. I'm not going to go into a ton of it. Excel has a recommend chart. I think, is that what it's called? It is called, I think it's called, recommended charts. Okay. All those things are great to get a quick and dirty chart. Okay, so you have at least 2 or 3 resources. You have the MindTap book. You'll have me go over a couple of key terms. LinkedIn Learning that has a couple good things, and that should be enough for Excel. Now, moving on, and like I said, I plan to cover. I'm going to do a whole class on either Tableau or Power BI or something. I want to give you a taste of why people use these tools. I mean, if Excel can do it, and we know it's cheap and fast, why use something else? Okay. If you look here at the viz of the day, it is amazing some of the things people do. I've downloaded a couple of visualizations. I'm going to probably show them to you here in a minute or two after the book, but it is just amazing what Excel can do. I think, yeah, I'm going to talk about heat maps. I guess it's technically a heat map, but that's not what I consider a heat map. That's why I put it in there. This is more of a heat map or geospatial. Let's just go to the book, I guess. Let me talk about that here a second. So let me switch over to the iPad here. Okay, so looking at chapter 3 in general. Actually, there we go. So some of these things, are not as useful in Excel. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of that. So let's talk about some like the key issues. One of the reasons that we do visualizations is that it's not that we can lie, it's that we can, portray information quicker. We can give a bunch of data. If I have an Excel worksheet, Okay, this is just some real estate data I downloaded from realtor.com and filter it by anything that has a comma WA. I'm like, oof, what am I going to do with this data? I mean, look at this. It's a nightmare. I'm sure there's a lot of good data in here, but what am I looking at? I have no idea. So this is what I'm talking about cognitive load. Now there's an Excel, or sorry, there's a Tableau one. Let's see if I can find it here. Now look at this. Now look at this. So this is some housing. I just Googled like Tableau housing. So close, listed homes. Very similar information on the other ones. Pending sales. I know the other one has pending sales. I saw that on the header. Closed sales. There's that little graph there. So here's a little, look at that. So now I can at least kind of understand what I'm looking for. Let me select a little better date range. Oh, look at that. There we go. Island, I don't know what island is, but it's a place in Washington. So see, a lot easier to comprehend. Housing prices. Even this might not be the best visualization, but 10 times easier to understand. Select region. I guess this is Europe. Let's say Dublin. So again, much easier to understand the visualization. That's that cognitive load they're talking about. Now again, the problem is when we make a graph, we have to decide what we want to include and what we don't want to include. And this means that we could be less than honest when we do this, because we say, hey, here's some important information I'm going to leave out. So just keep that in mind. The library link, I think, talks about it, like do no harm. But I've seen graphs where we extend it by a couple of weeks just to make the graph look better. Okay, so again, cognitive load is just how much do I have to really think about it. And as you saw, that Excel is impossible to deal with, where the visualization is much easier, which I want to include. Well, nobody cares about this stuff. Data to ink ratio. This has a couple different names, but at the end of the day, the idea is you want to be as clear and direct on what you're presenting as possible. Okay, and so if you look, there's right here, I've seen hundreds of charts like this, but most of the time they'll have like numbers, like right here, like I don't know, 180, 140, 155. So they'll have trend lines, R equals blah blah blah. So they'll add a lot of information. You can even make it thinner and make it less, like this. Okay, so now some people like more information, some people like less information. It's kind of totally up to who you're presenting to. Sorry, it's totally up to who you're presenting to, how much information they want. Generally, less is more, but that's not always the case. Some people always want like R squared lines or trend lines. Some people want, you should always have a zero. That's one of my big things. I always try to have a zero on my charts. So that's kind of what they're talking about here in this data to ink ratio. Is just what is the minimum amount you can put and still convey the information truthfully. What can you do to declutter? Okay. What else is important on here? So this chapter is a little lighter, which is nice. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff on pivot tables in Excel. I was going to do a pivot table last week because we had a promise, one of the assignments, but I'm like, oh, we haven't learned about pivot tables. No pivot tables. I mean, as much as I hate them, they're just super important and they're used all the time, and they're just so quick and easy to do. And I think there's even like a recommended pivot tables now. It doesn't work for me that well all the time, but know how to do pivot tables. If you need additional help, I can show you. There's assignments in chapter 3 that will show you how to do it. There's homework assignments and tests. There's all that stuff that will show you how to do pivot tables. It's relatively easy to do a pivot table. And that's what I'm not going to cover. Like, select this, select 12. Nope. What else do we have here? We have charts. Okay, now, there is a lot of, I don't want to say controversy. I mean, I have books literally behind me that tells you, hey, if you have this type of data, you should use this type of chart. I don't know about that. Some charts are better than others, but it's kind of what you feel is best and what you're trying to portray and what the reader will understand. I'm going to go over a homework assignment, and they use a stack chart. I'm not a big fan of those. My work's not either. We do use them once in a while, you know. So this just talks a little bit about different types of charts. Now, it's funny because one thing that we don't do a lot of, and I don't know why, at multiple companies and multiple places, nobody likes pie charts, okay? And I don't know why. So I crossed out pie charts in here. Try to stay away from pie charts. There's something called a donut chart, which is basically like a modified pie chart. A lot of people use those, but for pie charts, for some reason, people don't use them. And I don't know why. Maybe some businesses do. I've just never met those businesses. But a lot of businesses do not like pie charts. So I just try to stay away from them. What else? I told you this chapter is going to be relatively easy. A couple of things I know I want to cover here. Okay, so heat maps. Technically this is a heat map, but I would not call this a heat map, okay? I mean, I guess it is, but it's just like I said, it's presented so weird. Heat maps show points of activity compared to other points. I mean, you just Google it. So heat maps are super important, but a lot of times we don't do them in Excel, okay? We do conditional formatting in Excel that's closer to this. But like I said, heat maps are important. This is just not how we normally use them. So I just want to give you that information. These tree maps, we do these, or I do these in like R or Python or other programs, but I've never done them in here. I didn't even know Excel could do them. So, I mean, I really wouldn't worry about them too much. Waterfall charts are the same thing. Waterfall charts can be done in like a million other programs. And I guess they're so waterfall charts like this are important. Like there's a Pareto chart, they're super important, but we generally don't do them in Excel. So it's good to know what they are, but also know that nobody normally does them in Excel. Stock chart. Okay, what else do we have here? So now, 3.5, geospatial data. I just want to touch on this. Geospatial data. Funny, I just had a conversation with somebody about this last week. If you can get good with geospatial data, there's a lot of money, at least not a lot, but there's more money in it because it has to do with how you can distribute or how data is in time or in space, I guess would be a better term. So for example, I mean, we use zip codes a lot of times, but that's not always, that doesn't map to census data, for example. Census don't use zip codes, use another terminology. Or in UK, there's, I think, LOS and MOS. There's all these different ways to map data to a particular location, latitude and longitude. And then you also have to worry about how the demographical differences are in that area. For example, I mean, if you're looking at the number of car sales in one area, in I don't know, 89154 by where UNLV is, and then you look at car sales for the same type of car, same make and model, over somewhere else, maybe in Summerlin that has a higher income, you can control, if you go with geospatial data, you can control for the median income of that area. Because if you have more money, it's easier to buy a car compared to if you have less money. So if you're just saying, hey, you know, look at these two zip codes, this zip code buys more cars, well, of course they do, because they have more money. I mean, it's kind of, so you can use geospatial data to do that. A couple of cool projects I've worked on with geospatial data is like, how far away are people from a vaccine center? Now, you can't just draw a straight line from somebody's house to the nearest doctor's office, because that's not the way it works. You just can't say, hey, this person's 0.1 miles. No. You have to use like TomTom or some mathematical model or some way to like map on a road and say, hey, this person is 3 miles away from the closest doctor's office. Or somebody might say, hey, how many people are within 15-minute drive of a hospital? I mean, some of these business questions are so valuable, but very, very hard to answer. If you're Chick-fil-A and you had a list of 10 locations, okay, and you want to say, hey, I want to know how many people that are making over 100 grand a year that are within an 8-minute drive, not including like rush hour traffic, to these 8 locations, it can become relatively hard to do, okay? So now data dashboards, the idea is that um, we want to track our goals. So if we have, if we take data and we turn it into information, we take that information, turn it into knowledge, and then make a decision on that knowledge. Okay, we say, hey, this is what we want to do. Okay, so we're going to open Chick-fil-A at this location because these are all the metrics that work for us. Blah blah blah. So we're opening a Chick-fil-A in this location. Well, now we want to track sales of I guess Chick-fil-A. How much are we selling in terms of, I guess, chicken is Chick-fil-A. How much are we selling in X, Y, and Z? What's our drive-through rate? What is our walk-in rate? Okay. So another thing to remember too about your KPIs is, what do we want to track, and also why do we want to track? Because sometimes, sometimes we'll do reports on things we can't really change. And sometimes people track things they can't really change. Sometimes I've seen this happen in businesses. They track things they can't change. So it's not always really valid to track it. You want to track, or you want to have your data dashboards on things you can change or things you have to report out to. Okay, so if you have your data dashboard for Chick-fil-A and you put maybe weather, and you did a correlation between weather and sales, and you found out, hey, there's very low correlation. On hot days, cold days, it doesn't really affect sales. We just know that, I want to track sales for some reason. So here's my fancy dashboard. Here's sales. Here's whatever, inventory, drive-through rate. And then here is the weather for the next 10 days. That information is useless. It doesn't drive sales. I did the math. It doesn't drive sales. It doesn't drive people who call in sick. So why be there? It's not important. Okay. And that's a really key factor. We want to be able to track what we can control, what we're trying to measure, what we're trying to change. Okay. We track weight. We get on a scale and say, hey, I'm 180 pounds because I can eat less and go down, or I can eat more and get up. We don't track the chances that I'll get cancer. I don't know. Something like 20-30% of people get lung cancer that don't smoke. Okay, so we really have to think about what we want to track, what's important for us. And same thing for a business. Okay, so let's go over here to one other thing too. So let's let me just show you real quick. So here is let me show you Power BI first. So let me pause. Actually, so this was just one of the like homework assignments. Okay, it's just a quick and easy graph I made. So I think this was one of the nice things about this module is that it lets you download all the data. Try this one. Yeah, this one. So like I said, you just download the data, for example. That's what I did. And then you just, I did it like, you can see, I didn't even do it an hour ago. I made a bunch of charts and did a bunch of homework just to verify some stuff. But again, you can just select the data, recommended chart. You can see, look at all these little different types of charts. Insert, boom. Okay, so like I said, Excel is really fast and easy for this. Okay, that's what I use to just verify a couple of the homework assignments. Now let's go to Power BI. So here is a couple things I download on Power BI. So one thing I do want you to notice is there's Copilot, even though we can't use it, or I can't use it because it's not enabled on my account. So this is more of a dashboard. So instead of looking at like a bunch of home stuff and just like, what am I looking at? And I got a headache and this is crazy. I have some type of kind of visualization and it's interactive. So what's the average age of females are buying beauty products? 40. What about men that buy beauty products? Oops, just there we go. 40.39. What about electronics? Huh, see? So a little bit more interactive. This is cool. So this is, I mean, I just found this one online. I can share the link if you want. But this is just a real simple, you know, dashboard. Right now, 49% of our customers buying clothes are female. 50.43 are male. You know. So these aren't super hard to design out, but to me, they still look kind of boxy. But I mean, that's Power BI. Power BI is better than Excel in terms of making dashboards, and you can literally just drop things on here. You put your columns and rows, and here, boom, you're done. I mean, you hook it up to a database, you hook it up to Excel, a bunch of different things. Do I have my other Power BI one open? I have one more, I think, to show you. Don't save. So just some type of human resource dashboard. So I just found these. So for people in research and development, I guess there's our education level. They have 961 employees. They have 63 in human resources. They have 440 in sales. You can see a lot of the researchers are between 26 and 35. Let's see sales. Sales is about the same thing. Human resources is about the same thing too. Job role, salary. So see how you can just, so it looks like in sales about 50-50 maybe, maybe not, maybe a little bit more. But in research and development, more males, and then human resources, about 50-50 too. So this is just Power BI. And you see how much easier it is than going through a big table of data. I remember seeing this one, because this one, a few people say they wanted to do auditing or auditors or surveys. So you can see that now we say, hey, what's owner 73? Maybe they have like a real name in the real world, but we see, how long it takes to load their dashboard, what project they're working on. I mean, this is a lot more interactive, a lot easier to work on. So one thing, like I said, I think for this week, one of the things you have to do is go to Tableau Viz or Tableau Public. Like this, look for a visitor of the day or look for things that are trending and just tell me about it. What do you like, what works, what doesn't work. Some of these are amazing. And what you really see is, I think I posted this one, and there's probably better ones now. You can really, I mean, people spend their life just working on Tableau. So there's a friend of mine does this. She went through, got her master's in data analytics. She was here in Vegas. She just moved to Texas a couple years ago. And now she's not an expert in Tableau, but she's miles better than me. And she really spends her time trying to take data that I give her and other people give her and make really clear graphs for like the CEO, COO, for upper management, for the public. Because if we can really, make clean graphs and make things very clear to understand, it helps everyone. I don't know what one, I'm just randomly clicking. Yeah, but I mean, just look at it. This is really nice. I mean, it's because it's simple. We talk about data to ink ratio. Look how simple that is. If I want to know this year, 5.4%. But for those years average, it's 10%, or 5.3. But you see, I can click on any year I want and get the actual number, 8%. But for these 10 years, the average is 5.8. I mean, it's just beautiful, So like I said, I'm not good at Tableau like that. But there are some really nice charts in here. And like I said, it's it's a completely different type of field than what we're doing, than what a lot of people do, a lot of heavy data analytics. So just think about that, because a lot of people love it. Well, let me see if there's anything else I got. Yeah, and I think I told you earlier, I just want to make sure I remind you, there is that LinkedIn Learning, I think, down here about, with here. So if you want to know more, this is a pretty good course. There's a couple other ones, but this is probably one of the better ones. So, you know, like I said, if you want to live in a Excel, like Pareto charts are one of the most popular things in business. Okay. Um, but like I said, there's additional learning. Just remember to scroll down past all this stuff here. As always, if you guys have questions, comments, anything, let me know. I'm here to help. Thank you for your time.